Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, tonight we are talking about training secrets to level up your business. So if you're ready to level up, you don't want to miss tonight's show.
Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
Welcome to the Better Your Business Show. I'm Natalie, and we are excited to have you with us tonight as we are talking about training secrets to level up your business. And my Can you hear me? Okay, Bernie?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. We lost Natalie. I thought it was going to be me, but we lost Natalie instead. So I think I was frozen and then she was frozen, and I should have never said anything about the thunderstorm, but here we are. Bernie DeSantis of Insignia Training Partners. I know Natalie will be right back with us, but we want to go ahead and get started in the conversation. We, as everyone knows, we have a pre-show convo, and we were talking about some of the challenges of small business owners. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about Insignia. How long have you guys been around? Who do you serve? Just kind of that background there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Insignia Training Partners is a full service learning and development company. And we provide contract, or the new word is fractional, resources to organizations to help them design, develop, and deploy their training programs. Insignia has been in business for a total of 17 years now. I'm actually the second owner. I purchased the company January 1st of 2022, right at the tail end of COVID, after working within the business for 5 years as a learning consultant, as a facilitator, and virtual producer. I like to tell people that we're industry, product, and service agnostic, right? At the end of the day, if you understand how people learn, and there's only so many ways that really you can deliver content, eventually you can get to a point where you start to be able to plug and play that subject matter into a framework, and you're able to get reliable and consistent results. As far as the clients or companies that we serve, I'm a firm believer that whether you're a company of one or you're a company of a million, there is training happening every day. Either you're consuming it or you're delivering it. But in either case, Insignia is able to help.
Which is awesome, because as we were talking about before, a lot of companies, those that have training programs, may not be doing it effectively. But I think the bigger concern for me, thinking about our audience of small business owners, is that it's not even really planned. Many business owners, because it is, there's an expense, right? But there's a larger expense not training. I firmly believe that. And not just because you're on there, but thinking about even the example that we gave, where there's a business owner that needs to replicate themselves, right? If you're trying to grow and scale, there has to be someone else that can do what you do at the very beginning if you start out by yourself. So It's that recognition that if you don't have some sort of training, your experience, your customer experience is going to be different or potentially different every time, which could be damaging to your brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I always like to relate back to a comic strip cartoon that I saw years ago, and it says, "What happens if we train our employees and they leave?" And then his counterpart says, "Well, what if we don't train them and they stay?" And that is a harsh reality of business, right? If you are not investing in your team members for their improvement, for their upskilling, and ultimately for your organization to help sell your products or services, the long-term effect of that is that, again, you're going to have poor customer experiences. You're not going to have consistent results. You're going to have folks that are doing everything differently. And ultimately, you can't have a reliable, consistent business if everyone's doing things in a different fashion.
We're back, Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. Welcome back.
Internet went out. Mine of all the people. I was like, "Are you kidding right now?"
I mean, isn't technology grand?
Yes. And I was afraid. I was like, "What if we both just bombed out on Bernie right now?" I was like, "Bye, Bernie."
Bernie, the show is yours.
Right.
It must go on. It must go on. So good. So I hope I didn't miss too much.
We just did a little introduction on Insignia, kind of who we are, what we do, how long we've been around, and started to talk a little bit about training, right? So, when we're talking about small businesses, to, back us up a little bit from the pre-session show, really that first step for the small business owner is creating the standard operating procedures, right? Especially if they're a solopreneur, it's really hard to duplicate what you as that subject matter expert do every day, unless it's documented, right? There is a simplistic and frankly, it's genius to have checklists, to have those standard operating procedures that somebody can read right down. This is how you do it, X, Y, Z. It's the simplest form of training, is just having documented processes. Hey.
That's you guys, right?
Everything
yep,
so
that is the Insignia website
for the business owner. It just makes everything so much easier when you have those things in place.
It
makes
absolutely
expansion
does.
easier, it makes training more effective.
Yeah, I mean,
so when we
sorry, we have a little bit of a lag, I think.
I think we were all
Go ahead, Shanna.
Okay. So I guess when we think about the fact that a lot of companies don't have a training program or don't think about it until, I guess it's always in the distance for them. When I get to a certain size, then I need to think about training. But why do you think that is? What are some of those common misconceptions that especially small business owners have when it comes to training and learning development?
Well, I think unfortunately a lot of organizations, they look at training as kind of that necessary evil, right? I have to train my people in order to get them productive, right? In order to get them out doing whatever the job is, selling the widgets, providing the service, whatever that may be. But the reality is if you don't take the time to train them properly up front, you're really doing yourself as a business owner a disservice, because they are not going to be able to execute, sell the widget, sell the service, whatever it may be, lead a team, because they're going just based on what they know or what they see other people doing. Now, if you don't have trainers, right, there is a time to do shadowing and things like that. But like we talked about in the pre-show, if the guy Joe, who is your top salesperson, who you're having everyone shadow, is doing it his own way and not the way that the company from a standard operating procedure wants it done, well, you get 2 or 3 training classes down the road. Now it's Joe's training that has morphed into Sally's training, that has morphed into Bob's training, that is nowhere near what was originally taught to Joe, that first employee, that superstar. Because, let's be honest, a lot of the superstars that are out there, the great salespeople, they kind of figure things out on their own, like what really works for them.
Yeah.
And, that's great for them, but it's not always repeatable because it may be a personality trait. That's not always something that's teachable to other people, right? And that can cause a challenge down the road, because what happens if Joe leaves the company? Now you don't have his sales skills anymore, but now you're relying on the tribal knowledge, as diluted as it might be, from the rest of the staff who learned from Joe.
So with it being
Your
considered
business is never really running efficiently.
No, exactly. If you don't take the time to consciously think through how you're going to train and develop your people, you can't get consistent and reliable results. But furthermore, in this day and age, you have to, as a business, be willing to invest in your people and be willing to grow them, because the current generation that's coming into the workforce, the whole quiet quitting thing and all of this nonsense, the reality is a lot of these companies are not investing in training. They're not investing in coaching and developing people. And the folks of this current generation that are coming in right now, they are seeking that. They want companies that will invest in them, that are going to help them grow to be better. And if you as an organization are not taking the time and making the investment to do that, that workforce is going to go find a company that will do that. And they will unfortunately put you out of business if you're not willing to make that investment.
That is so true.
You know what I'm curious about? Because I think the statistic is that most employees are only going to have about a 7-year turnaround, right? The majority. I'm curious to know if that increases employee retention.
Oh, absolutely.
Training programs.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I want you to think about something for a second, Natalie. If have there been jobs where you have quit in the past?
Yes.
Have you ever quit a job? And what was the reason that you quit a job? And I'll even put some words in your mouth. It was probably because you didn't have a really good leader, right? They didn't take the time to coach you. They didn't provide. I'm making an assumption because that's usually true of most people when they quit. It's because they had a bad leader.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So, investing in things like leadership development and coaching, that brings the organization to that next level. They're not just telling people what they're doing wrong. They're now coaching and telling them how to do things the right way, giving them appropriate feedback. Just telling somebody that they did something wrong, that's not feedback.
Right.
Right. So
and
you have to take the time to invest.
Or influence with them at that point anyway. They just don't like you.
Right.
Well, and for me, the last job that I had, I felt like I wanted to grow more, right? I felt like there needed to be more room for growth. And that was at the height of the pandemic when everything was just shutting down. And I had time to sit and think about it because it was a great experience for the time that I was there. But I started really looking at how many people were quietly quitting. And they were already checked out. They're not doing anything but collecting a paycheck because no one is monitoring, or they're doing bare minimum at that time. And it really made me start thinking about 3 things: that a lot of companies were losing people because of either people, processes, or training, right? You have the wrong people in these positions, getting your SMEs to be a trainer, to teach people how, and without any real knowledge or understanding of how to communicate to them, how adults learn and the different learning styles. So it's either people in the wrong position or they're in the right position, but there aren't any processes, like you said, the standard operating procedures. There's none of that in place that really supports what you're asking them to do. And you haven't really evaluated that, or it's training. You've got the people, you've got the processes or procedures, but you haven't trained them properly how to use those. And people get frustrated as a result of not feeling like they can grow anywhere or that they don't have the resources that they need. And it's a lot of it can be solved by making sure that you've got them in the right place, you've got support for them, and that you've trained them how to use the resources at their disposal.
That's exactly right. And it's unfortunate because there's so many great workers out there, so many people who really truly want to do a great job for their employer. They want to enhance and advance their careers. But if they're not given the tools to do so, it's like handcuffing them, right? I mean, they have no other alternative than to seek out other employment, right? I mean, what is the incentive in a lot of cases for these folks to go above and beyond if their organization is not developing them appropriately, not giving them the tools? I mean, I can struggle more and try harder, or I can do absolutely nothing more than what I am capable of, and I'll collect the same paycheck. And you're going to spend the exact same amount of time and energy on me. Well,
Yep.
I mean, I'm a pretty ambitious guy, but I know what I would do.
Right. Agree. Same. Here. I would be like, okay, it's not my fault that you're not willing to slow down and invest in me.
That's right.
Well, and I think, Natalie, to your point when you were asking earlier, if that increases retention, if training increases retention, and I would say absolutely, for that reason, you are investing in me. I know that, and it could be coming from the side of, having delivered training but I'm a strong proponent of that, because I do believe that it is an investment. It means that I want to see you grow. I want to make sure that you feel confident and comfortable in this role that I saw that you were able to do, that you know exactly, where to go for this resource or where to go for that. There's a huge difference, but it is an investment in your business, in your people, and, you'll garner that loyalty.
Absolutely. But even hiring that individual is an investment, right? Just growing your team is an investment in growing your organization. So why wouldn't you, as an organization, if you're going to spend the money to go out and hire what you feel is the right person for the job, why wouldn't you invest in giving them the tools and the opportunity to truly succeed at it?
Right.
There's one thing to be said about simply putting a butt in a seat. And there are certainly some roles where that's all they need is a butt in the seat. But most people don't want to just be a butt in the seat. They want to be good at what they show up every day and do for a living. And if you're going to spend the money to hire the right person, you have to spend the money to train that person the right way.
Yeah,
I truly believe, to your point, Natalie, I think that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to attrition, right? And retention for organizations. You again spend all this money to bring in good talent, but if you don't invest in them and their success, they're ultimately not going to be successful.
Yeah, it makes me think of, I had worked at this advanced tax planning office just for not very long, and they did amazing. I mean, as far as bringing in clients, they did amazing numbers, but the only person that knew how to sell was the owner of the company. Everybody else were employees doing admin types. So he kept getting bottlenecked. Yep. So I came in on a sales side, and he's going, hey, I literally had to just record him and start creating my own scripts because there was nothing. And he would keep bottlenecking. And I thought, this is way too stressful. Like, I cannot keep having to tell these people, well, it's going to be months again from now. It's going to be months again from now, because we're so bottlenecked because people don't have the skills to get other things done. I said, it's just not for me. It's too much stress. It's not worth it for me. But what I kept thinking is, he doesn't even notice it. Right? No. It's so his normal. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And it's like, yeah, when you're in that type of stress, or when things are, you don't even notice, I think how much he can be making millions and millions and millions of so much more money just by fixing that challenge right there, just by taking that time. It's going to cost him some money since he's the only producer to slow down. It is, but sometimes you have to slow down and speed up, right? You got to slow down, sharpen your saw.
That's right.
You can get back to work.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's probably mind-boggling how much money he ultimately lost because of that bottleneck. Right? When the reality is, it could have been a very simple fix of simply creating standard operating procedures, documenting the process and the scripts, the things that he says, and you hand those right off. And yeah, it's going to take some people some time to ramp up and get anywhere near the skill level that he has, but the efficiency that he would have created would have allowed him to exponentially expand his business.
Mm-hmm. Because they're doing great things, boy. They were blowing my mind with the services they were offering. So it was just a bummer, but that's business, right?
hopefully someone there is listening or will send it their way, because honestly, I mean, it really can be fixed, and they are leaving money on the table, because anytime you're relying on one person in an organization, if they have all of the knowledge and everyone has to go to them, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. And it's like, for you, it was frustrating, and that would be frustrating for me. Give me the information I need, and then let me, grow in this position. Let me bring what I have to the table. Let me help you expand this, because I see your vision and I see the potential. And you did, but you walked away because of the, issues that could have been resolved had, he taken the time to really document. And I mean, for you to have to film him, that's crazy, right? Film him to get to know what to say to people. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. And here's the thing that blows my mind. And I mentioned this phrase earlier, right? It's unconscious incompetence. He didn't even know that he didn't know this, that he wasn't doing the right thing. In his mind, keeping everything to himself was probably the most efficient thing that he could think of to do, because if he handed it off, it would slow down the process in his mind.
Right. Exactly. He didn't want it to slow down, but it was completely bottlenecking.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
And I think a lot of business owners, especially solopreneurs with amazing ideas, these visionaries, they really don't think about that. It's so easy and so natural for them, right? I should be able to just tell someone this and they get it, and now you can go and do it. And that's not the reality.
Telling is not training. You know that, Jana.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that was his mindset. So here's another perspective. I think he really would have wanted to take the time. It grew so fast. So that's the other thing you have to, like I'm telling you, right? They're doing amazing things. That's the other thing I have to think of as business owners. They just were growing to where it was like, I don't even have, how do I slow down from this? I mean, in a year, they grew by over 150%.
Wow.
So it was huge growth.
Yeah.
He needs to be introduced to Bernie right away, immediately. Right now, immediately.
I'll send my team in. We will extract the information. We will record him, and we will document every process.
Wait, you would be perfect. You would be perfect. Oh boy.
And then Bernie, just remember me, voiceover actress. I can do it. I can do it. Okay, so let's talk about practical things, because what we don't want to do is remind business owners that they're not doing this without saying, here are some things that you can do. Here are steps that you can take if you haven't already thought about training and development, even from, just your first employee that you bring in or your first contractor that you hire. Help us go through the process or some practical steps that business owners can take.
Well, I would say that the very first thing to do is to document your processes, right? Create your standard operating procedures. Again, have that checklist that you could quite literally hand it over to someone and then go right down that list and complete each step in that process and complete the task, right? So having documentation is numero uno. You have to be able to you have to have documentation that you can hand off to somebody in order for them to repeat what it is that you are doing or have already done. The second piece, especially from a small business or solopreneur perspective, I mentioned this earlier, whether you're a company of one or you're a company of 1 million, there is learning and development, there is training happening every day. So, either you're going to consume it or you're going to be the one delivering it. Now, as a small business owner, you may not be a trained trainer. That may not necessarily be your cup of tea. But there are a lot of resources out there, both free as well as inexpensive things. I'm sure that a lot of my, cohorts will be disappointed to hear me say this, but places like YouTube are actually great resources. It may not go super deep on a topic, but you can get a good idea of how to do things, how to lead a team, how to manage, particular processes or different systems. You can learn about different programs, right? Maybe you're not an Excel whiz, but you can jump on YouTube, watch a couple of videos, and guess what? By the end of those videos, you can now write some formulas, right? So there are a lot of ways that even as a small business owner with a very small budget, you can still deliver some level of training. We talked about this in the pre-show as well, right? LinkedIn Learning, a lot of the stuff out there, it is, kind of surface, but it's free and it gets you deep enough and gets your thinking going that you can start to work from that. Now, is it going to be the end all be all? No, probably not. There will still be some things that you need to fill in the gaps as a small business owner, but it gets you that head start, right? It gives you some place to go from as opposed to starting from zero, right? There's a lot of people out there who are surprisingly turning to TikTok for things that they want to learn. It, like I as a business, I don't want to be on TikTok. But I found out recently that people are going to TikTok to learn new skills. So guess what? I'm on TikTok now.
So Bernie, Shanna, what is it that people go to TikTok for? What is it again? OnlyFans is teaching
Oh
skills.
no, it was OnlyFans that we were talking about, and training. They go there for training as well. Yeah, that's why your partner is on OnlyFans. There's a training course they're taking. But yeah,
I hate to feed that fire, but there are actually a lot of content providers.
Yeah, we really were talking about that.
I look up recipes on TikTok sometimes.
But a lot of people do. It is, and we're going to go ahead and continue this conversation because going live and trying to pull up things, my system is just like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? So we're going to stay with you, Bernie, and we'll do Just Good Business the next time. We've got an amazing company. But let's talk about ROI for a minute, because we don't want people to think of this as a necessary evil. This is an investment. So how do you measure that return on your investment? What should you be looking at to determine, yes, I've gotten my money's worth. What I paid for this training to develop it, even if that's me taking the time to do that, how do I know that I've achieved that return on investment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Shanna. And I'll be honest and tell you that for most organizations, it's really difficult to figure out your return on investment. I will say that, generally speaking, particularly as it pertains to leadership development, there have been a lot of studies that have been done out there. And oftentimes you're looking at things like 7-to-1 return on investment simply by focusing on those very specific areas, right? So if you're talking about, let's say, sales training as an example, you want to look at what are your KPIs? What are the objectives of training? And how can you tie them to your key performance indicators and your overall production? Maybe that's sales volume. Maybe that's sales revenue. Maybe that's how many times are they trying to overcome an objection. But as an organization, from a strategy perspective, you need to figure out what are the right measurements and what are the dollars and cents associated with achieving those things. Now, you may very well pay a whole lot of money for training and not see a result. And then you're going to blame the training. But it's not necessarily the training that's the problem if you haven't figured out what the objectives are for that training, right? Because if I'm training people how to sell a widget, I need to be able to give them communication skills. We need to talk about overcoming objections. We need to talk about collecting payment. We need to talk about those soft skills, right? Things like your words, your tone, your physiology. All of those things are important, but you may not be able to necessarily measure them individually. You need to look at what the end result is. Are they getting out of those employees what it is that they're trying to do? The worst thing that companies do is when they decide that they're not getting the result that they want at the end of training, then they go back and deliver the same training again, as if the person didn't get it. Well, that's not usually what happens.
I wonder what percentage of that is that the systems or training aren't being enforced by the person who had you go there. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is that it's like, okay, well, do what Bernie says or do what Insignia says. Do it because they said to do it. All right, I'm going to go to my office or whatever. And then it's, well, that person's getting results, so they don't have to stick to the SOP or, right? So I think that's part of the challenge is they think just because you came in to show them, it doesn't mean that you're enforcing it when you're not there.
Well, that's a great point, Natalie, right? Like training isn't just in the classroom. Training is really the full cycle, right? From the moment that they step into onboarding through to about 90 days after they've finished training. There needs to be ongoing coaching and follow-up and reinforcement for at least 3 months after they've finished training to make sure that those new habits have stuck. It takes anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks minimum to create new habits. So if you're not staying focused on those 3 to 5 weeks on those new things that they've learned, those processes and procedures, they will absolutely fall by the wayside. 100%. And that's a huge problem. There are lots of organizations that actually deliver great training, but there's absolutely no follow-up after the fact. And so people, when left to their own devices, are going to go to the path of least resistance.
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, we are going to take about 20 seconds to reset. We're going to come back with Max Strum, our business owner. He's going to share a little bit about his business, and then we're going to see what we can do to help him level up.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, Natalie, you ready?
All right, we are back. Hope everyone had a nice 20-second break there.
Okay, so we are going to bring back.
Am I
Yeah,
lagging?
a little bit. It's either you or me, and I can't tell you which. We're gonna bring back to the stage Bernie DeSantis, and we are going to introduce to the stage Max Strum.
How y'all doing?
Hey, Matt.
We are well, Mac. How are you?
Hey, Mac.
I'm doing fine. I'm on the road here headed to Pittsburgh, so you might see some light shining, and my laptop is in my lap, so that's shining on me.
It's all part of the experience.
Yes, and then of course tomorrow's being Saturday, you know, it's the big event in Columbus, so.
Yeah.
No, tomorrow. Oh, you know, my days are mixed up because I actually got off of work Thursday today, and we're headed up to Pittsburgh, and we'll be there until Friday. Yeah, we'll be leaving from Pittsburgh to go head up to Columbus Friday for the meet and greet.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, the big event.
Which is awesome. Okay. So Matt, tell us about your company. That's what we want to hear about. We love the idea of the event Saturday, but tell us about On Time Entertainment.
Okay, well, the name of my company is On Time Entertainment. And first of all, I've been DJing for about 20 years plus. And I went through several names, We Productions, MD Production, and then it stuck with me On Time Entertainment because when I'm involving myself in something, I try to be on time, and that stuck with me. So I figured, like, okay, wait a minute, I can use this to get the word out and let people know, you know, if you need any DJs or if you need me as a DJ, you know, we're always on time. You know, set up and get ready, prepare for entertainment and just having fun. So that's basically that is it right there in a nutshell. One of the things, being on time, being professional, looking professional, and that's another way of actually selling yourself.
Yeah. So Mac, when you and I first met, and and I was sharing with Bernie a little bit, as we were talking about your vision for your business, is to grow, and I was like, you're going to have to train people how to do what you do. And so I was so glad to hear, that Bernie was going to be on here, that y'all are on the same thing, because to replicate you. So, Bernie, I would love for you to weigh in on, as Matt continues to grow right now as a solopreneur, he's trying to build this team of DJs that will be on time, that will be dressed professional. There's so many little nuances to it. So shed some light on this, Bernie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's interesting, Mac, because when I was in my 20s, a buddy of mine had a DJ business, and he went down to Atlanta for about a year to pick up some other work. And I ran his DJ business for about a year. So I'm fairly familiar with a lot of what you do. A few things that I would obviously recommend and suggest. First and foremost, if you haven't already, document everything. Create those standard operating procedures, man, tip to tail. What is it that you expect of all of your new DJs? How do you want them to show up? Make sure that it's very, very clear, right? Because you don't want to get into a situation where you tell them what you expect, but they have no reference. They can't look at something and say, this is what you told me, right? And you want it all to match. So create those standing operating procedures is the first thing. The second thing is, if you haven't run teams of people before, invest in yourself. Spend some time focusing on learning leadership, how to run and operate teams, how to communicate effectively, how to coach and provide feedback. Those are some of the basic things that you absolutely need to do and be good at in order to grow. Because if you're not doing those things, you will see, obviously attrition. People will come, they won't be satisfied, they won't know what the job is, they won't feel like you're a good leader, right? You want to make sure that you are able to communicate effectively what your vision is, what your expectations are, and be truly supportive of them as they continue to grow to build your business, right? Because as much as you are going to invest in them, they are also investing themselves in you and your leadership. So make sure that you spend a little bit of time not only growing them, but take the time to grow yourself as well. Think about the things that, maybe as a young employee you didn't get from some of your leaders. Make sure that you are fulfilling those things for the people that you bring on board.
I love that. That's really great.
And I'm glad that you said that, because you saying those things make me think of probably something what everybody else said. If I knew what I know now, wait a minute. If I knew back then what I know now,
Yep.
then I could have moved forward very fast. But better late than never.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Definitely better late than never.
And
Right
one of
But reach your hand down for the guy behind you.
Right on
Everything that
time.
you know, now you have the opportunity to pass that on and help somebody to grow even greater than you have.
Well, and one of the things that you said there, when you were talking about him investing in himself, you mentioned communicating his vision. And that's something that, when you said that, I was so excited, because I feel like that's the start of every business, is writing down your vision, because then others will be able to see that's what, what the customer experience needs to look like. What your DJs, what the associates need to look like that are going to be part of your team. You can see how they're dressed. That all should be written down and communicated so clearly, so that there's no doubt that anyone from On Time Entertainment, they're going to show up sharp. They're going to show up on time. And on time means ahead of time, because we start when the client has said, hey, I want to start at 7 p.m.
Yes.
We're there setting up, testing everything before that. All of that needs to be documented, because if you don't, you're missing that opportunity to provide the greatest customer experience possible, right? You'll lose out, and your vision won't be executed because they're not aware of what it truly is. Build your, create your vision, and then build your SOPs off of that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even further say, if you haven't figured out what your company values are yet, spend a little bit of time on that. Obviously you've communicated a couple of them, being on time, right? In Insignia land where I live, one of my main and core values is a really old adage: early is on time is late is unacceptable. I run my business that way. I am never late for anything because I believe that if I am on time, I am late. So I am early as often as I can be.
Right, and that's good because even with my regular job, I've always been on time. I've worked coming from I live in Cincinnati, so I was working in Toyota down in Georgetown. That's about an hour and 30-minute drive. I did that for 3 years. Never missed a day. Always on time. Always actually earlier than what I should have been, but I was always there. So in doing that, I felt that I should, start a business and treat it like I'm going to work, and they'll just let my team know, hey, I expect them to do the same thing. But like you said, Bernie, it should be documented down on what I expect, what I want, so they can not only hear it verbally, but it's written down for them to see it as well.
Got it.
Have them sign it. Sign it.
Yeah.
I went over these things with you so that you have accountability for them. I have a question for you, Mac. What is your strength? Is your strength being the DJ at the party, or is your strength kind of like setting up, getting the events on the calendar, kind of creating the activity?
It's DJing a party, but then I like to bring other DJs in to DJ a party so I can watch how the crowd are going to react. And then at the same time, I'm recording in my mind what this DJ is playing and watching what everybody is moving to, or what they're shaking their head to, and so on. So, basically keeping up with what's going on, because when I get on the set and then I know exactly what this person is going to do, because I've already heard and I've already probably seen most of the people at one party or one event where I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. And I'm going to play hit after hit, because I know at where the DJ that was DJing, I know I saw these people sitting down for a while and they were vibing to a certain piece of music. So that would be my strength in that. My strength is kind of putting events together. I haven't did it in a while, but that is one of my strengths. And I'm working on more of communicating. I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed right now, so so Shannon probably seen me at some of the meetings on the Wednesday meetings, and it's like, what should I say? And this and that, and then I'm working at the same time, trying to listen to the meeting, but I'm relaxed. I'm not driving. I feel great. So that's it. I want to say my weakness. So my weakness is that it'll come and it'll go. So at one day or time I could be like relaxed and talking real calm. The other, I may stutter from time to time. So that is something that I'm working on.
Yeah, you got to work on being a consistent force for your team members, right? You have to be consistent in how you deliver your messages and how you communicate, because people, if you're one person one day and somebody completely different the next, you're very unlikely to get consistent performance from your people, because they don't know if you're Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde today.
Right, exactly. And that is true. So I am working on my vocabulary of what to say and what not to say, and I'm really actually coming enlightened by this AI. So it's pretty cool. So I've been, how can I say, practicing.
Awesome.
Which is great. So let me ask you this, Matt. What are some of the challenges that you see with growing your business?
Well, some of the challenges is meeting the right people who is going to get the job done. I had a team back in the day. Well, I won't say back in the day, probably about 3 years ago, and that's when I came up with the name On Time Entertainment. And I think what happened is me being too trustworthy, because we would meet on a Tuesday, and to make things kick off, we'll bring like $100 to the table and put it in a pot. This is when I was then working down at the Toyota plant. That was a long drive for me, so sometime I could not make it to the meeting. So I delegated it to someone else, and also had them to hold the money. That was a bad mistake on my behalf. So lesson learned.
Right.
Anyway, I came up with this. But wait a minute. As time went on, we were supposed to open up an account. My name was supposed to be on it. The gentleman taking the money and opened up a bank himself.
Right.
And he was not supposed to do that. And one of the gentlemen is telling me, well, I started On Time Entertainment. I'm the head of On Time Entertainment, and so on. Anyway, something happened, and so I just broke everything up and went about my way, saying, hey, you know what? I can't trust anybody, but I have to trust, or either have to check people out, and so on, and see how they move, how they work, how they communicate, and just make things happen. Just make it happen the right way. I came up with this thing to actually, instead of passing out flyers for an event, they can actually just go to the website, and if they want to buy a ticket, and then they can purchase a ticket from there. No money exchanged to any of the partners. It just goes straight into the bank.
Yep.
So and it's easy, so you don't have to worry about it's being tracked by the bank. You get an invoice of what's going on, and basically that, just you really actually keeping up with everything yourself. And then when it's time to take care of the DJs that are out there, then you can either, if they have Cash App or whatsoever, you can Cash App them, or whatever source that they have out there, so the DJ can get their funds or their money. If they're late, and then they will be docked, because what's going to happen too is when dealing with people, there will be a comment where they can do up on the site, as far as how was the DJ, did he do this and that? How did he communicate, or he or she communicate with the crowd? So
let me ask you this, Mac. Are
Yes.
those processes that you already have in place? And we've only got about a minute, so I want to give an opportunity for each of our panelists here to give you some feedback. But are those processes that you have in place as of right now?
They're coming in place. They're being worked on.
Okay, perfect.
So
Okay.
yeah, those are being worked on.
So, Bernie, let's get because we are at time. Let's get some final feedback from you for Mac. Anything that you can hear that might help as he's trying to grow based on what he's identifying and where he's going.
I would say that there's a couple things there from just based on what I heard. One, obviously, you want to make sure that as an organization and all the people that work within it, they are living up to the expectations that you've set. But they always have to be documented. You have to have those documentation, those pieces of paper, if you will, right, that people understand, they can read, and they agree to. One of the worst things that you can do is simply create a rule and not have documentation around it, right? I heard you say that you would dock people, but then I heard you say that we're working on it. So you have to be really careful about that because you want to make sure that the expectation is set before you reprimand. Because if you reprimand without letting them know what the expectation is, they won't be a DJ for you for long.
Right.
Agreed. Natalie, anything from your side?
Just ditto what Bernie said. I think that was great feedback, and it's a great place to start. The only thing I would add maybe is to put a little bit of a sense of urgency behind it. I mean, you've been doing this for 20 years. So it doesn't have to take you long to start getting the processes in place. It's just a decision. So if you're ready, go for it.
Yeah, and I know for a fact where he's going this weekend. It's to one of the Business Empire Financial. It's a business blueprint meeting. So
I got invited to that.
Yeah, so he is actively working on all of these things.
Awesome.
And for me, I have to mirror that same sentiment, and it is document everything, starting with your vision and let everything flow from there. But it needs to be documented, and these are living documents, right? So they will change as your business grows and evolves. Don't keep doing things the way that you've been doing them just because. Really examine that at some regular cadence and then change that, but then communicate that out clearly. And at some point, you're going to need the Bernies of the world. You're going to need help developing that training that will solidify this in every one of your employees or your contractors. It will help them understand exactly what it means to be an on-time entertainment DJ. So, all right. We'd love for you to stay. Mac, I know that you're on the road. Bernie, we'd love for you to stay. We're going to bring Fitzroy in.
Mac, you got someone in the comments. I would love to connect. There is so much potential with you and AI, Robert Bowman. So,
all right. I love it. Love it.
AI and DJ is going to be a whole new world.
Right? Seriously.
And I will hurry up and put my comments in here.
Perfect. And yeah, we'll make sure Robert Bowman, if you're still listening to us, please make sure that you reach out, to either us on the show. We can connect you. Mac is giving us his information, and we can share that
your contact information.
Okay. Fitzroy.
Yo.
Your boy.
It's your boy, Fitzroy. So I got a quick top 5 game for you guys, but this time let's do it Family Feud style. So what I'm going to do is I'll ask the question, and then I'll just go down the list and ask each person their answer. Only that person can answer.
Wow, Fitzroy.
And then if you get the 5 of the top 5, you guys win. But if you get 3 incorrect answers, then you guys lose.
All right.
We get the rules of the game?
All right.
Yes.
All right. So, speaking about training, this top 5 is going to be what are the top 5 most expensive business seminars to attend. And when I say business seminars, I mean one that's tied to a person's name. So not like VidCon or something like that.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So let's start with Bernie first. Bernie, what would you say is one of the top 5 most expensive business seminars?
It's probably going to be something to do with Tony Robbins.
Oh, man.
Tony Robbins is in there. Yes. All right, Mac, how about you?
No, let me go.
That's a good one. The top. Can it be a company?
It has to deal with a person.
Oh, it has to deal with a person. Okay.
No, should we skip you?
Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
Your ex went. Okay. Doesn't think you on the show, right?
All right, let's go to Shanna. Let's go to you since it sounds like you have something.
I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go since Bernie took mine. I'm gonna go with. Ooh, I don't know if he does these. Richard Brunson.
Oh,
Not in the
Is
top
that his
5.
name?
No.
Is that even his
he's
name?
already rich.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well.
All right,
no, we may
Natalie.
just
What about
lose.
you?
Oh my gosh.
Just
Oh my
lose.
gosh. Okay. I'm going to say Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone is in there.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
Virtual high five, Natalie.
I need to know some more people then. Okay.
I need to reach out myself.
So Matt, you and I, we're gonna do this. Okay, what about Brene Brown?
Not in the top 5.
Man, I give up.
Mel Robbins.
Who is that?
Who?
Mel Robbins. Lisa B and Tom B.
Nope. And no.
Really?
Okay,
So I think
Bernie,
that's 3.
what's
Okay, well,
another-
Bernie, let's have you. Maybe you can carry the team.
What about John Maxwell?
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought
He was
John
my
Maxwell
list.
would be in there, but no, not John Maxwell. No.
Wow.
So actually, the other 3 that you guys did not get, Dale Carnegie, which I know he's not alive, but
Okay, I was like,
there is Jordan Belfort.
Wolf
He's
of Wall
up there.
Street. Yep.
Wolf of Wall Street, and then the most expensive actually is, and I've never heard of this guy, Jay Abraham.
Huh.
Are you guys familiar with Jay Abraham?
No.
I'm not. Okay.
No.
Well,
Maybe we should be.
perhaps.
obviously. All right. I mean, fine. Thanks for that game.
Thanks for the fun game, Fitzroy.
You're very welcome.
All right, you guys.
He's 75 years old, Jay Abraham.
Of course, Natalie, you looked it up real quick. I love that. Okay, so Jay Abraham is 75. So we had 4 living and 1 deceased person on
One
there.
deceased.
All right. I feel like that's a little bit cheaty.
Maybe a little later down the line, you can ask these questions again.
Yeah, we'll do the best of the, at the last show of the season. But okay. We have got some grants coming up. But before we do that, we want to release our guest experts and our business owner and the amazing Fitzroy. Bernie, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wisdom with everyone, expressing the importance of training and developing that sooner rather than later. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and for your
Bernie, I'm referring you to someone. I have a referral for you for their show.
Awesome. Thank you.
We really appreciate that. And then Fitzroy, I love every time you come on here, even if you give me games that I don't win. Thank you guys so much for being on here with us. We really appreciate it. And we are going to let you all go.
Okay. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Natalie.
Mac, I always wanted to be a DJ.
Really? It's going to be on.
DJ Shannon?
Yes, I can see it. I can see it.
I know.
Okay, because it's going to eat up so much of my system resources, I'm just going to tell everyone UPS, the UPS store and Inc.com. They have a grant. It expires tomorrow. You just have to tell your story. So tell your story, but look that up. UPS store grant. March 8th is the deadline, but it's a very short form. There's 3 phases to it. And I think it's up to like $50,000 or something that you might win. Plus, a whole bunch of other resources.
Awesome. And if you go to our Instagram channel, we'll have it on there for you as well. So you guys start applying for these grants. because it's a numbers game and you'll get better at it. So Barbara saying howdy. Hey, Barbara. So, all right, you guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much to everyone that joined us tonight. Was really great information, great leadership and training information. It was fun having Mac on the show and Fitzroy, of course, as always. And I always love my time with you, Shanna. So
Thank you too.
yes. So everybody do something this week that will help you better your business. We will see you next Thursday. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.